Thanks, Rick. Well, good afternoon. As Rick had mentioned, I'm standing between you and driving the new Chevrolet Volt, so I know we're going to be pretty quick here. Hey, if there is, let's advance if you would. If there is just one thing for you to take away from this, it's the Chevrolet Volt is a real car. It can be your household's only car, which quite frankly is a claim to date that an electric vehicle has never been able to make. And so let's go to the next one. And so what you'll experience is the silence, relative silence, driving performance, the peppiness of the car. It's a very unique driving experience, but quite frankly, we're going to market under the theme line, it's more car than electric, because it can be your household's only car. It's a mainstream, mass market vehicle, and that's essentially how we're positioning the vehicle, and that's how we're taking it to market. So what are the things from a consumer standpoint that are interesting about the Volt? Well, there were all sorts of, let's go to the next one, newfound freedoms. These freedoms or these abilities that consumers will now have that historically they have not had before, certainly in this combination. What do I mean by that? The first one, let's go to the next one, is the newfound freedom to drive gas-free and tailpipe emissions-free for most of their daily needs. And for most Americans, that includes commute to and from work every day without consuming a single drop of gasoline. Pretty neat. However, you also have, combined with that, let's go to the next one, the freedom to drive wherever you want, whenever you want, because there's a reassuring engine generator that's gas-powered on board that seamlessly kicks in once the battery's depleted. So you can go an EPA estimated 35 miles, gas-free and tailpipe emissions-free, drive right through that battery power range, and don't worry about it, because the gas-powered engine generator combination will seamlessly kick in, and you have to do nothing as a customer, and the car's smart enough it does it all itself. And that gives you the ability to drive cross-country. We've driven Volts from Detroit, Michigan to Los Angeles, from Austin, Texas to New York City, and I'll tell you about a program that recently swept the United States driving Volts around the country. We've got an electric vehicle that can drive cross-country. Never been done before. Okay, add to that a newfound freedom to be able to fill up at home. You have the ability to plug the Volt in at home and recharge for an average cost of about $1.50 of electricity a day. You can charge the battery from depleted to fully charged. So it's a new capability that consumers haven't had before, the ability to drive right past the gas station and fuel up at home. Next, I think we had teed up an ad. You want to try this?
Breathe, socket. Just breathe. We know it's intimidating. Instant torque, top speed of 100 miles an hour. That's one serious machine. But you can do this. Any socket can. The Volt only needs about $1.50 worth of charge a day. And for longer trips, it can use gas. So get psyched. It's a big step up from the leaf blower. The 2011 Chevrolet Volt. It's more car than electric.
That ad's called Socket, and obviously it talks about that third newfound freedom, the ability to fill up at home or recharge at home. It's also very important that because the car's so revolutionary and innovative, that we create a revolutionary, innovative customer experience for all of these Volt customers. And a key element of that is the connectivity. And we've got the capability through OnStar being standard in the Volt for 5 years, so 5 years of OnStar directions and connections, to connect the customer with a whole bunch of things. For example, the customer can press the blue OnStar button, talk to a live advisor, and tell that advisor where he or she wants to go. The advisor can download a destination into the standard screen-based navigation system automatically while the car's still moving. So it takes all of the dissatisfaction of screen-based nav off the table. You no longer have to pull over to the side of the road, put the car in park, and type in the destination yourself. It also gives you the capability via a smartphone app, easy to download, to remotely connect to the car and see things like the battery state of charge, to see things like tire pressure, and to do some remote functionality. A great example is on a cold day like today, you're sitting inside a building and you want to remote start your car, which is in the parking deck or a parking lot. You've got the capability to do that through the smartphone app so that the cabin's preconditioned, nice and warm when you get in. Or you're at an airport, you park the car in the parking deck, you run into the terminal, and you think, did I lock my doors? You've got the ability from inside the airport terminal to hit a button on the smartphone app, and it will remotely lock the doors and send you a confirmation that it's done so. The car can also send you a text message to tell you that it was plugged in, but the charge has been interrupted. A lot of intelligence into the smartphone app. There's also a website called myvolt.com for owners. And after the owner puts in his or her password, they can get similar kinds of functionality on that website, but they can also share their driving and ownership experience via social media. So we'll have a lot of early customers that will want to brag about the number of miles they've driven on battery power only as opposed to gas fuel, and they can grab that and send it out through social media as their proof point to not having been to a gas station in weeks or even months. So those are a couple neat capabilities enabled by this connected customer experience, which is an important element of the Volt. We also have dedicated Volt advisors for these customers to call, and that's an important element, and our advisors are reaching out to customers at every stage along the order and purchase and delivery process, just to make sure everything's going okay. But what's really important, and quite frankly I'm very excited about today, is you get a real appreciation for what this is when you get behind the wheel and drive the car. And I'm obviously very excited that you're all going to get a chance to do that this afternoon. And that's a phenomenon we call living with the Volt. Let's go to the next one. These individuals are what we call our Customer Advisory Board. And back in late September, we announced that there will be 15 people, some of them are shown here, that we would be giving Volts to over the course of a 4-month time period to get their feedback and their perspective on the Chevrolet Volt. And we are fortunate to have 2 of those individuals here. One's Tom Kuhn, who's the president of Edison Electric, Tom. And then also Brian Wynn, who's the president of EDTA. Brian? We thank them, obviously, for their feedback driving Volts. You guys ended up with the Volts in early November, right? So you've been in cars now for a good month and a half. So they've got a perspective on the vehicle as well. We did a tour called Volt Unplugged, another one of those cross-country elements, started in Seattle, Washington, came all the way down the West Coast, went around through the Smile States and up the East Coast and over to Detroit. 12 cities, over 6,000 drives. People would register online. People would wait in line to have the opportunity to drive the Volt. It was also a very, very important initiative for us, but was able to get the car out to people, which is a very important part of the launch. And then this Monday, we took this picture where we loaded up the first truckload of Volts at Detroit Hamtramck Assembly. Monday afternoon was a fabulous, fabulous event for us. And this morning, we delivered the first Volt in Denville, New Jersey, to this individual named Jeffrey Caffey, who was a retired airline pilot, and he drove his Toyota Prius in to trade that in to purchase his new Chevrolet Volt as the first Volt customer just this morning. Now, I should also tell you, in terms of the local...
This isn't a country.
In terms of the local flair, there are vehicles that have been delivered here in the D.C. area to dealerships. One of those dealerships is Criswell in Gaithersburg. And we're just really, really excited. Washington, D.C., as you know, has been named as one of our launch markets for quite some time. We're really excited to be at a point now where we're actually delivering cars to dealers who are then delivering cars to customers. And so with that, let me play the last ad for you. It's called Anthem. Whoops, almost. So close. So close. There you go.
This isn't a country where plans made at 9 necessarily apply at 5. This is America, man. Home of the highway, last-minute detours, and spontaneous acts of freedom. We're wanderers, wayfarers, even nomads. So doesn't it just make sense that we build an electric car that goes far, really far?
Is that George Clooney doing the voiceover?
It's Tim Allen. And with that, thank you very much again. I know we're standing between you and driving the Volt, so I'll turn this over to whoever. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony and Rick. I know everyone wants to get out there and drive, but I would like to open up the room for a few questions. Really short. And I'm going to come around. If you have a burning question, I'll come find you. Hold the mic. So, and we're going to do about 5 minutes.
I don't have a burning question. I have a burning retort. I'm probably the only Chevrolet dealer here. I'm Robert Fogarty from Sport Chevrolet. Harry Criswell's father worked for my dad. And no, I'm just going to give a shameless plug, but Jerry Ryan worked for me for 33 years, and Robert Kelly has sold all 22 of the Volts we've pre-ordered. He's so good that we had Volts out at the dealership about a month ago, and people were customers asking if he worked for General Motors, Chevrolet. I would extend, without a shameless plug, anybody in the press corps that wants to come out, put my neck out on the line here, but we're going to have a demo shortly. And with Jerry's permission, anybody in the press corps that wants to drive it for a weekend, et cetera, we'll have one at Sport Chevrolet out of Silver Spring, Maryland. So again, we've got them, we've sold them. We're going to have one in next week, but we'll have a demo soon, and we can offer it to you. I know Jim Vance, who's a customer of ours, again, has a Corvette and an Avalanche, and he was very skeptical of driving that. And we've got a little segment he did. They gave him the Volt to drive in D.C. about 2 months ago, and he was blown away. I mean, he was totally blown away. It's unbelievable. So, again, Sport Chevrolet, plugging that. But if you need to come out and see us, Jerry Ryan would love to give you a Volt to drive for a weekend, as long as you don't take it to Alaska, in fact. But I'm here. I go to work every day, unlike some other people. I'm just kidding.
And what is the dealer cost of a Volt?
Sorry.
Could we get your impressions of the Volt that you've been driving?
Well, thank you very much. I am a recovering gasoline user. I haven't been to a gas station, as I think Tony mentioned, in a month and a half now. I think it's, what he said is the car. I mean, it's an exciting car. 0 to 60 in under 9 seconds. I was asked by a reporter how fast I had gotten up to, and I was 85 miles an hour on the Beltway, so I now have the patrol, highway patrol following me. But it's an incredibly exciting car. And you know, I think from an operational standpoint, you are driving at 2 to 3 cents a mile as opposed to 10 to 12 cents a mile. So the savings. I'm driving for free. I don't get free electricity. I'd love to just say I do, but unfortunately they won't let me. They won't give me free electricity. But I mean, I do think that you know, the environmental benefits, you talk about that. But if you really think about the fact gasoline is going to be over $3 a gallon very soon, going up, and I think that basically we're in a recession and oil's at $90 a barrel. You know, count on the fact that it's going to be higher when China puts another 16 million cars a year on the road in India and other places. I think this is the car of the future, and it takes away all the range anxiety. You can go as far as you want to.
Brian, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, my name's Brian Wynn. I'm also a recovering, It's, it's been a great experience for me. Okay, I'm going to go for it here. I had never plugged a car in before, and I promote the industry. And I think what that says is that, we are now at a new phase in the introduction of this technology. The technology, of course, has been around for a long time. It's really the convergence of a lot of different technologies, but the electric motor, what you experienced, if you haven't yet, what you will soon experience when you step on the accelerator of these vehicles, the dynamism you experience is electricity as a fuel. And electric mobility is really a very, very exciting development for a whole bunch of reasons. The thing that I'll focus on, and I haven't bought any gas either, I think I've used 2.5 gallons. I live a little bit further out from the city than Tom does. 2.5 gallons in 6 weeks, however long we've been driving, about 700 miles. So the features that really I've been focusing on are the nav systems, the connectivity with the vehicle, et cetera. As a consumer, that's very important to me. It is what Tony talked about, the ability to remote start the vehicle is really extraordinary. And so that, to me, highlights the convergence of technologies I'm talking about. It isn't just about the mobility, although that's very exciting, and that's really what we're highlighting right now so that consumers get in the cars and they experience this. But there's also the convenience of being able to know exactly where you are, to know exactly how far you need to, how far you're going to go with the car before you run out of electricity as a fuel, because that's being baked into all of the vehicles that are going to plug into the grid. And then finally, the final point is the convenience of being able to plug your car in at home. I don't have to go anywhere to fuel my car. I back it up in the driveway, I plug it in, and I go to sleep, and it sits there and it fuels. And the Volt, along with some of the other products that are coming, allow you to leverage lower rates at night. You can set your car, you can program your car to do that. Again, a convenience to consumers that is extremely important. Fleet operators, of course, live or die by cost per mile. They can do these calculations all the time. What we're in the process of doing now is educating consumers about cost per mile versus miles per gallon. We have some new metrics that need to be applied here, but I think they're metrics that consumers can grok very, very quickly and can see the benefits of these vehicles. So I'm very excited to be here. More than happy to talk to you about my other experiences with the vehicle. Thanks.
Let's take 3 questions. We don't need, Roger?
Roger Lonto with Strategy Analytics. I was going to ask the question privately, but since GM and OnStar have talked about this capability, I thought I'd ask it publicly, which is GM and OnStar have talked about smart grid integration with electric vehicles, and I know OnStar is in the middle of transitioning to an open platform, a different kind of solution, and technology moves very quickly. I was just wondering whether this car will have a smart grid integration capability or whether it will be a future version of this car.
Yeah, I would say at this point that's stuff that's being worked on, but there's nothing definitive to announce right now.
Well, that's disappointing. Anyone else? Wait, I'll get you next.
Let me just add one element. You certainly have the capability today, both in the car and via the smartphone app, to program charge time based on departure time. And so to be a little bit more efficient and use electricity at its lowest cost time, typically nighttime hours, you've got the ability to program the charge to be done based on the time that you are ready for the car to leave. The question is platforms for smartphones, Droid, and iPhone right now.
I'm Rick Trawick with carsandplaces.com. As a number of the people in the audience here that have classic cars probably will think of, are you going to deal with the gasoline in the tank that's been there for 6 months? The modern fuel chemistry breaks down pretty quickly, and so I'm sure you've thought of it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I didn't personally. I would love to have taken credit. We have a phenomenal engineering team that has. There is a maintenance mode that will cycle the engine on ignition or on power up that will sense how long that gasoline's been in the tank. And we'll actually cycle it through and we'll burn some of that fuel off.
Okay, 2 more questions. I promise. This gentleman.
Bill Lightfoot, Lightfoot Associates. What's the displacement of the gasoline engine, the size?
It's a 1.4 liter.
Thank
That was a short one. Okay, 1 more. Do we need it? Okay, let's. Vern, of course.
The battery is good for 8 years. It's warranted for, and at that point, what is the new battery pack going to cost?
Yeah, what? Projecting 8 years out at this point isn't a real easy thing to do. We know battery costs will come down through time. And quite frankly, that's why we announced, just so that is not a question for consumers, that's why we announced the extended warranty to go out that far to 8 years or 100,000 miles to take any concern off of consumers' minds about battery costs. It's a long time.
Okay. Okay. I'll give it.
And what determines the failure or the end of the useful life of the battery? Is it 50%, or I mean, have you set that yet?
Yeah, we can see about 70%, and it's in the warranty booklet, about 70% of the battery at 10 years, 70% capability at 10 years.